Welcome to the You Need More Money podcast. I'm your host, Matt Manero, where I come to you from my studio every week in Dallas, Texas. I have an amazing guest on the show today. I was just saying in the studio that it's gotten warm, and it has. It's because of the energy of my guest. My guest is a friend of mine. We met through friends. Do you remember when we met?
I don't know.
No, you were too busy. I remember it like it was yesterday, though. We met at that breakfast joint. We had coffee at that breakfast joint.
Yeah, I do remember.
That was years ago. But
that was a long time. Was it at Cafe Brazil or something?
Yeah, I think it was Cafe Brazil. And it was out towards you, where you live, out by you, I think.
Right. And the publicist has connected us, right?
Yes, right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. My guest is an author, very successful business person. Notice I didn't say businesswoman because it's irrelevant to me. Is it irrelevant to you, business person, businesswoman?
Irrelevant?
Do you care whether you're described as a successful business person or businesswoman?
I don't care.
Do you think the market cares whether you're described as a business person or businesswoman?
Don't know. I know it's damn harder to get places when you're a woman.
Do you really think that?
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, shit. It's so much easier to get places as a woman than it is as a man. Absolutely.
You're so wrong. My 23-year-old would say that, though.
Your 23-year-old daughter would say that?
I know, my son would say, oh, yeah, you women, you just need something. You just lift your skirt, you know.
My guest is Bethany Williams, and I want to tell you all, there's one thing that you can learn from her right away, man. Bring energy to a room. Every time I've been around Bethany, she fires the place up. And I know that that's what you must do in Vince's world, man. I mean, you just must bring this light, this energy. Is that right? I mean, really, he must just, your contribution, and I see it in your friends and your posts. Everybody feels the same way about you, Bethany. You bring a happiness and an energy to every situation. And I don't care if it's having coffee at Cafe Brazil or when you and I did Truck Tank, which was really cool. You were one of the judges on Truck Tank. Or even this morning and firing up the place. And it doesn't matter whether Bethany's doing it with just me or she's doing it with a crowd of people. She brings a personal energy that is a requirement of success. Mm-hmm. People of interest do interesting things. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think positivity draws people.
Does.
Right?
So does negativity. Right?
Yeah. Well, that's true in a bad way.
But one of the things I know is that probably at some point in your life wasn't your MO.
No. Oh, no.
Right?
The funny thing was, as a youngster, so I was extremely bright. I graduated second in my high school class, 3.989. I mean, I was just really, really bright, lacking a lot of common sense. So for everything I had in book knowledge, I lacked in common sense. Moved to San Diego, got married, moved to San Diego, had a child. He left me very soon into the relationship, and I was suddenly a single mom working in a large healthcare group in administration. And I realized I went into this pit of woe is me. My life is so bad.
But your husband passed away.
He eventually died, yeah. When I tell the story, a lot of times I say I wasn't widowed for 6 years late. I mean, it took 6 years of him living this other life. Right? And it was so painful for me. It has been my whole life that my high school sweetheart would leave me. It was almost easier for me to jump to the end of the story.
Yeah.
And finally, when I wrote Live Your Dreams, my daughter, who is now a mother and married and has children, she said, you need to tell the whole story. You've got to stop glossing it over. And I said, Heather, some things are so painful that you take out the worst part of it.
I totally agree.
That was terrible. But I did fall into this, I call it a Michigan mindset. You know, I'm from Flint, Michigan, which is just a devastatingly poor area that has been hit by the recession. And I fell into this is all it will ever be. This is all I can have. I got to live paycheck to paycheck, and my life is doomed forever. And, you know, through a few courses of events, a few people said to me, why? Why does it have to be that way? And it's almost like they're looking at a different picture, and theirs has color and vibrancy, and you're looking at a black and white, and you're trying to explain to them why your picture is the right picture. You know, well, because I'm a single mom.
Yeah.
And they said, well, what do you mean? Then you go get a loan like everyone else does, and you go to college, you know? And I said, no, I can't do that. And they said, have you even applied?
Yeah.
And so we like self-select ourselves out of opportunities and out of this amazing life we could have. So I put myself through college.
But see, here's why I get along so well with you, and you get along well with a lot of people, but I only get along well with a few people. And the reason that I care about you so much and I like you so much is because I can see through the happiness that you have is earned. It isn't who you were. Now, maybe at one point in your life you were, but for someone to have it in their DNA like you have today, I know that that is a learned happiness.
Right. I chose it.
You chose. I can see that, and I resonate with that.
Yeah. I chose positivity.
Yes.
I chose to wake up every day and we did it this morning. Vince and I went on a gratitude walk. We do it. We try to do it every day.
Yeah.
And we kind of had a shitty day yesterday with work and kids and bills, and you know how everyone has those
Dude, my
days.
day wasn't good either.
Yeah. And we got up this morning and we be thankful for everything. And we literally started off, all right, well, I'm thankful for that. And we literally started our day on our gratitude walk and tried. You can reposition your mind, I believe, in as little as 15 minutes.
Yeah, even sooner, I think. But just to finish on that point, I know how that transformation occurs because I had to do it myself. And so I think I'm intuitively aware of when it happened in somebody else. And that can be an unspoken connection. Because you and I never talked about that before.
Right, no, we haven't.
But I know, I just knew it the minute I saw you, that who you were was a choice. It wasn't, maybe in the early days in Flint, Michigan, your high school friends would have said, oh, Bethany was always the life of the party and happy.
No. They would have said I was silent. I never talked.
Oh, my God. That's hard to believe.
Said I was quiet? I know, right?
Holy mackerel, really? No kidding. What, like a bookworm kind of?
Yeah, I was a bookworm. I would have been carrying a book around. I would have been reading a book. I was a concert pianist. I would have been practicing. I would have been like nerded out. Band camp.
Well, what has occurred is how you just wring the happiness out of life. I mean, and I want to get into a lot of the things you've done, but just since I've known you, climbed Kilimanjaro with pneumonia, right? Didn't you get pneumonia on that trip?
We ended up with some altitude sickness stuff going on. Yeah.
Give me the name of the trail in Kauai that you did. Twice since I've known you.
Kalalau Trail.
Which is, give us the details on that trail.
It's 11 miles each way, so it's 22 miles. It's considered one of the 10 hardest hikes in the U.S. It's pretty invasive.
Like die if you slip.
There are people that die. Yeah, die on that hike. Yeah.
Kilimanjaro. Give me the details on Kilimanjaro.
Kilimanjaro is 19,000 feet. It is 60 miles, and the last day you're uphill at least 8 hours straight.
Oh my God! To summit.
Yeah, to summit.
When you get to a place like Kilimanjaro, such unbelievable. Do you get bummed out at the garbage and debris that you see up there?
It was clean.
Oh, it was.
It was amazing. Yeah,
because they say Everest is just littered with trash.
I think that the guides must pick it up because it was
Sherpas?
Beautiful. Yeah, I think the Sherpas pick it up. It was beautiful at the top. Yeah.
And how physical was that climb? Big time? And you have a bad back, too.
I do. I have steel in my spine. It was really, really hard. I think I'm almost addicted to the I think the rush that you get is you realize on this climb when you start in the dark, it's all dark out, you have a headlamp on, and you're literally just following the feet in front of you. Yeah. You realize about 4 hours in when I was having a mental breakdown and saying, oh my God, I can't do this. You realize that it is in your mind, that you are either going to decide to do it or you're not. The minute you decide you're not, you're down. And I realized how many things in life do you think we decided we couldn't do that we really could?
Totally.
That we just stopped and made that mental decision. And the power of the mind overwhelms me on those type of physical challenges.
Is that one of the reasons why you do it?
That is my addiction, I think, is the ability to realize that everything we face every single day is a mental decision to either go forth or accept failure.
So isn't that funny, though, that some point in your life you end up saying, well, I got that. And so that challenge can go away forever. Some people, I believe it happens when you graduate high school or you graduate college, but it happens, that crescendo happens very early in most people's lives.
It does.
And the beauty is to constantly put yourself in situations where you're being tested like that, and you're tested. Now you're going to these extreme levels. I do these cold water swims in the morning.
Yeah, I see those. I love it.
But today was 46 degrees, that water was.
Goodness.
So, you know how cold it was this morning. Do you guys walk this morning? You know how cold it was, right?
Did.
Well, try being naked in your pool.
I would not want to do that. But when I met Vince, we decided that, I was already positive, but we decided that you could look at life as a journey. As, when you start to go on a vacation, you get excited, you pack your bag, and you're so excited about what's going to happen on this, or you're going on a certain trip, or you're going to meet someone, you're excited about. We decided that we could take that vacation attitude and live life on a journey.
That's killer.
Like every day is a journey. What's going to happen today? And if it's boring or mundane or you hate it, then why not change it?
Yeah. That's what I say. And I've said this before, where when I do it with my boys all the time, I do it kind of just to prove to my boys how it goes down. But I'm at the checkout counter and the guy or girl checking us out will say, "How's your day?" And I'll say, "It's unbelievable." I say, "You know what I'd do if it wasn't?" And they're invariably like, "Oh, what?" And my kids are like, "Oh man, he's going to say it again." I say, "I would change it." And they're like, what? I said, "Did you hear what I just said? If my day wasn't going well, I would change my day. I'm in control of my day. Nobody controls anything in my life." And I was just saying to my trainer in the workout this morning, because yesterday was a hard day in here with some policy changes to the staff. And I said, the whole idea is to create an environment in which the staff is not beholden on me, and I am not beholden on the staff. That the organization exists for the benefit of those who want in, and the door is always open for those who want out. Right. That to me is the creation of a special business. That's probably very hard for a lot of people to get their hands around. Most employers are trying to control everything, and most employees are the victim of the employer.
Well, I did a TEDx talk.
Yeah. Great TEDx talk.
How to lose a job in 10 ways, and or in 5 ways. And the whole concept was you should always be looking, because in looking, you start to appreciate your employer. In seeing those other jobs, you start to see those pay scales. Yeah. And you should have a mindset of what's out there. If you never look, then you take things for granted. Yeah. That's
so controversial what you're saying right there.
It is so controversial, yeah.
I mean, it just, I quoted Bethany. Bethany was a contributor to my book. We talked about that. Yeah. And I brought.
Congrats on the book, by the way.
Thank you. That's cool. We're all, it's go time now, March 20th. But particularly, I quote Bethany's book, 3 Days to a Raise, which everybody should get to. Go to BethanyAWilliams.com, BethanyAWilliams.com, and you can get that book, 3 Days to a Raise. But what intrigues me about that is what Bethany talks about. I want to get into it now, because this is the meat. I want the audience to get real takeaways from my guests. The meat is, Bethany says you need to create your own annual report. As an employee, you need to create your own annual report. So let me just describe what the annual report is. Just like if you were going to buy a publicly traded company on the stock market, they're going to put out an annual report. It's the highs, usually just the highs, right? It's the highlights of the business, the things that went well for the business with some data to support it, a little bit of commentary, and then maybe a little bit of a future projection. Perhaps one of the most famous annual reports is the one that Warren Buffett puts out for Berkshire Hathaway. If you want to get a real good idea what an annual report looks like, go read some of those. They're published all over the place.
Yeah, and they're public. They're available anywhere.
They're available anywhere.
Find them on the internet. Yeah.
So Bethany's stance is, well, if it's time for you, if you're getting frustrated, it's time for you to feel like the employer's keeping me down. I need more, all sorts of stuff. Well, what do most people do? What do most people do, Bethany? Nothing.
They grunt and complain and keep accepting the paycheck. And I say, you're not allowed to let them put the check in your hand if you're not mentally there. Like, if you agree to accept the paycheck, then you need to be on the team. You can't sit in this negativity. Negative employees drain us.
Oh, they suck.
I mean, that's why, a lot of CEOs feel like my message is really controversial, but the truth of the matter is, if you got rid of your negative people or turned them positive, you would produce more and you'd make more money.
I agree. I mean, it's just business is hard enough.
Right.
We don't need the negativity,
we don't need the
right?
people in that. We don't need to walk. If they walk out of our meeting, walk into the break room and like, oh my goodness, I can't believe he said that.
Sure, happened to me yesterday.
Yeah, they're costing us money.
Yep. Love the guy that did it, but it just happened yesterday. And the reality is, as the boss, you've got to see that that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. You have to see it more so than the employee not recognizing that they're doing it and what the implication is that they're doing it, right?
Right.
That's just who that person is.
And we think of our paycheck, but employees don't always think of what's my contribution.
Yeah.
Like, what have I given the company? Have I improved expenses? Have I created revenue? They kind of get in this almost like teenage children. You give me a check and I don't have to give you anything for it, right? Man. It's this one-way handout.
Yeah, I love it. Tim Grover says, when did doing a great job become the extraordinary? Wasn't doing a great job the sort of rule?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
But so the first part is the employee doesn't do anything. I want to get into this 3 days to a raise. How does someone who's listening make more money? The first thing is they don't do anything about their circumstance. That's probably condition number one. You and I both agree that they have the obligation to not stay in that situation.
Right.
Situation number two is maybe they wait for they're thinking it, but they're waiting for HR to make the move that says, well, it's 12 months. We should talk to you about your review and give you your 3%. Is that in your opinion, phase two?
What employees haven't done is sat down and had that talk. They haven't evaluated what they're worth. Yeah. So if someone just in your family just died and gave you a Chevrolet Cadillac or gave you a Cadillac or something, what would you do? Oh, the first thing you'd do, figure out how much it was worth, right? Would you go blue book it or something? Yeah. So no one's going to salary.com. No one's looking at, all right, if I've been in this job for 8 years, what are other jobs paying? Yeah. Because some markets go up, some go down. So they don't evaluate their worth.
Yeah.
And then, the biggest thing that happens is they've accepted predisposed opinions from their childhood or from their youth. In other words,
as really to what they're worth,
or what
they
they're
should
worth,
get paid,
what they should get paid, or maybe they've always wanted to do. I'll give you an example in your team. Maybe you have someone who really thinks they'd be good at sales, but they're in marketing or something, and they don't want to tell you that. So they just kind of sit there and think about it, hoping that you're going to notice that they want to do it. And so I tell people, have those conversations with your boss. You will not get fired for telling your boss, hey, I'm interested in sales. Do you think I can do it? Could I try it? Like, employers love it when you are motivated and want to try something. It's a no-lose for the company. You've already trained them. And you could put them on a 3-month trial sales run and see how they do and move them back into marketing if it didn't work out.
So now we get, let's go into that conversation with the boss, because so many people are terrified of that conversation. By the way, flip side, the boss is often scared of that conversation too. It is a two-way street, right? The boss is dreading those annual, what do you call them? Annual, we don't even do them in here. Annual reviews, right?
Yep.
Just as much as the employee is. So, by the way, as you know, there's this whole movement of there shouldn't be annual reviews. There should be like quarterly or even monthly reviews, right?
Quarterly, yeah.
So you can head off.
So you can, and it should be more coaching, right? It should be, all right, this is where you're doing well. This is where we need to work on. It shouldn't be this hammer at the end of the year.
Yep.
And actually, I did something just for you. I have a seminar on my website that's like 2 hours of walking you through how you do these conversations and everything.
Oh, that's
and
killer.
I put a free code out just for anyone that hears this. It's if they go and they buy the Raise seminar, it's New Life 2018 in the checkout. We'll get it to them free.
Oh, I love it.
Watch some of the videos. So I walk through exactly what to say.
So let's go through that. BethanyAWilliams.com.
Go to the shop.
Go to the shop.
There's a 3 days to a Raise seminar.
Yep.
And it'll have a price on it, but just go to the promotional code and it'll say New Life 2018.
Oh, that's killer.
Yep.
I love that.
But no, what you need to do is this CEO has built a company. They work very, very hard. CEOs work harder than anyone I've ever met. Hardest job on the planet.
Right. It very rarely seen by everybody else because of the late nights, the stress, the aggravation, all the stuff that's getting done 24/7. that nobody sees
that nobody sees.
A lot of times they just see the guy sitting at his desk thinking, or they think he's checking his emails.
Or they see him taking these great vacations, or they see the money that the job rewards without seeing the physical and emotional stress of it.
Totally.
So initially, you need to have a heart of gratitude when you talk to the CEO. What has this job afforded you? What has been good? What have you working with great people? And so it starts out as a thank you. Thank you for this job. Thank you for this opportunity. There are thousands of people out of work right now that do not know where their next dinner's coming from. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. And what I've really appreciated, and then find 5 things about that company that you've never seen before, that you love, that you enjoy.
Boy, I'm butter in your hand. If you start with that, I'm like, yeah, I mean it. I'm like, good, man.
When in the last year have you ever had an employee walk in and give you a thank you and what you've done amazingly well and what's right on target?
You know, we went through the torch last year, and I actually have had some of my employees come in and say, in fact, one guy in particular, and I talk about it in my TEDx talk, where he came in and said, you know, I fought you against the torch because you had destroyed my trust. And I'm coming in today to tell you that you got my trust back, man. I'm all in.
Yeah.
And that's very powerful when that happens.
Isn't it? And what does that mean to you as a CEO? It's like water in the desert.
Totally.
Isn't it?
And they come so few and far between. It's not a knock on my employees or other people's employees. It's just
not the focus.
It's not the focus.
They're in a tactical. So this is what I tell people to do. They need to hear it. They need to know what they're doing right. It's entirely unfair. It's like being in a bad marriage. If you're going to list out what you want to change, to not go to the positive. And so I always say what you're thankful for, what you love about the company, and then tell them whatever the conundrum is. You know, I have been here 8 years and I'm under market value.
So you have a very politically correct way of doing that. Right.
Well, I think it's more successful.
It is.
It takes them off of, and then it's not about their problem. You say, I have a problem. I'm supporting my family, and in the market, I'm worth 30% more.
Yeah, but
so can I get there here? Or is this something where
is this a watershed moment?
I'm going to have to, I mean, yeah, this is, and it is a moment where you're really doing strategy with your CEO.
So I need to go back just for a sec, because I think the way you present it is so polished and well done for you.
Yeah, that's because of the first 12 times I got thrown out of their office.
But
boss, I mean, I did it wrong so many times. I've had bosses say, "This is unfair. I can't believe you're saying this."
You're so rotten.
I mean,
you're green.
I got emotional, and I said, "Do you know what it would cost you to recruit for this position? Go post it." You know, I had screaming matches. Oh no! This is the result of doing it wrong 99 times and bringing that experience to people.
So doggone it, learn, man. We're not talking about off the cuff. This is real life stuff. Start with a position of gratitude, and don't like what I have done in the past. Although I haven't been employed in a while, but I have lots of other vendor relationships. All of it goes hand in hand. They're all the same communicating. Right. I'll start with a vendor that says, wow, your prices are too high and the service sucks. Well, what if I started differently, which I do now, which is, we have such an amazing relationship together. We have a great partnership. Partnerships
been buying from you for 5 years.
Yeah, and you've been doing favors for us, and we've been doing favors for you. I mean, it's just been great. The only thing we got to address now is just this pricing and service issue, right? But the reason you lead with the problem is because you're so afraid that the end result could be disastrous based on the problem that you just throw up at the mouth with the problem.
Right. And the truth of the matter is, this the hard fact in it is, he may say, and I have no intention he or she may say, I have no intention of ever giving you a raise. And at that moment, it's kind of like the moment that you realize this is a temporary job. Yeah. At some point, I won't be here. And people do not like the truth. The truth is something that people they avoid it. It is hard to hear. But you need to know where you stand and where your future is, and you need to own it and decide that maybe it's going to be somewhere else.
So let's go back, because one of the key components we skimmed over is the fact that it's not just about the niceties of the conversation. Right. You need to come with this book, this annual report that says, I don't want to just talk about what I've done. I'd really like to just present this. So help the audience understand this presentation of this annual report. How would you go about recommending that to people?
Yep. So you would let them know that you don't expect money for nothing, right? I mean, no CEO is going to be very appealing with the answer of, the reason I believe I should be rewarded is because I've brought huge gains to the company. I don't want this just to be words, and I'm going to show you some of the things I've worked on this year, and I'd love to get your opinion on how you valued these things. And as you go through the things, most of the time that employee has not been credited with the work.
Yeah.
The CEO didn't know they did that. They didn't realize they were part of that project. I think the biggest miss here in these conversations is everyone assumes, no matter how many employees you have, that you know what every single one did and you can recollect it on a dime. So this is usually a surprising conversation for the CEO. Really? You were part of the expense reduction, the $50 million expense reduction? Really? You helped us keep from losing that customer?
Sure. Or that marketing program.
Right, really,
or you got involved. You went on that you handled that trade show preparation. I didn't realize that.
I didn't realize you did that.
Yeah.
And then once reviewing that, you make the ask, whatever the ask is. I'd like a 20% increase, whatever the ask is. What we then usually do is, if there'll be silence, is we are uncomfortable with silence. And so then we want to fill. And I say, don't fill. Make the ask, and then if there's no answer at all, which you wait, then you say, obviously you need some time to think about this. I'll get back to you in 7 days, or whatever the timeline is. And you leave the report and you say, I really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And some people need to think on things.
It's a very mature way of handling this, which the maturity comes from the recognition that it's your freaking life we're talking about here, you know?
And, the recognition that I got was, I sat in these retirement meetings every year where they're teaching us how to invest our money, where to put our 401k. And I'm sitting here going, I am spending 4 hours a year, virtually, 2 hours twice a year, whatever, figuring out what to do with 5% of my income when I don't even spend 1 hour a year on what if I could increase my income by 10%. I mean, how tilted is that?
So you and I are on the same page on that these sort of, I need to go back just 1 second for clarity of the audience. None of this happens if you haven't done your research and your analysis.
Right.
Which is, in your stance, figuring out what competitive nature of pay is.
Right. Most people do what my 23-year-old does. They suddenly feel like they're underpaid. They get mad. They walk in and say, raise my pay right now. And they say no, and they say, I quit. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like so ill thought out. Or if it's a mature professional, then they go in, demand it. The person says no, and they start looking for work.
Yeah,
and it's unfair for the boss who might have, had they had all the information.
Yep.
So, if I were the CEO, I would love it if someone did this. Did the homework for me, brought it in, gave me time to think about it, gave me time to ask some other people, how do you feel about working with this person, and truly see the value statement. Most people would keep their jobs. I did this 5 times when I was at IDX, and I kept my job every time.
With big bumps.
With big bumps.
Yep.
That people said you will never get.
Yeah, right. Don't even try.
Don't even try. You're never going to get it.
So the last thing on this specific topic is the bump, because I'm a income versus expense reduction guy. I believe that most people have the ability to make large percentage gains year over year, and that a 3% raise doesn't mean anything. Right. It should be taken by the employee as an insult, that you're undervalued or you didn't do shit.
Right.
You should be looking at 20, 30, 50% gains. And if you can't get it in raw salary, as you have many times in your career, you can take it in other things.
Other benefits.
Time off, options, long-term potential upside.
Stock and options are the gold mine that people completely miss.
Yeah.
I mean, thinking that it could be 5 times your salary or 10 times your salary that you end up benefiting from. People just do not. And I don't know about men, but I can say women globally miss this. So focused on the paycheck that they miss the concept of options and equity and sharing a piece of, if I'm going to grow this company, then I want you to share it.
It's the goose that lays the long-term egg. Now, most people don't even think about it like this because they're so concerned about, I got to have today's money to pay today's bills, right?
Right. And that is because they haven't negotiated well. I even oftentimes will pick up pieces of companies if they just need someone on a board or they need a strategic advisor, and I will give them, 10 hours a year, whatever they need, and I will take a stock trade for that.
So my buddy, he works for a publicly traded company. He gets paid $350,000 a year. He's the chief sales officer. I've never even heard that title before. Have you ever heard chief sales officer? They created it for him. He started from the bottom, worked his way up, gets paid $350,000 a year, and has lived on that for, I don't know, I've known him for 15 years, and for a decade of that, that's what he lived on. You could live pretty well on $350,000, I suppose. He's got a wife who doesn't work and 3 kids and a big house and all that sort of stuff. But he continued to accumulate the options. And so when I had lunch with him about a month ago, I said, what are those options worth, man? He said, $12 million.
Wow.
Right. So most people would have been fighting for $350 to go to $375 or to go to $400 or $425, and he was just collecting options, knowing that his contribution to the organization was going to make the company more profitable and therefore more valuable. On the street, stocks are going to go up, and it has. And it's an unbelievable way to see your career and your financial accumulation in the right light.
Right. I wish I would have figured it out 10 years earlier, honestly. I'd be retired now. I'd be on a beach in Thailand.
Well, here's the thing that I want the audience to understand, Bethany, is that it is lifestyle by design, and we are the ones that have the responsibility to design it. Right?
But even the raises you design. That's what people always say. What is 3 days to a raise? It literally takes you 3 days to change your mindset and think, I'm going to do this differently. And once you make that decision, you will increase your pay. I helped, I'm on a 100% track record right now for helping some women double their pay.
Yeah.
And I think what they fought the most about is most of them had been in their jobs 8 or more years, had started entry level, had not gotten any bumps. And in their mindset, A, they didn't want to leave the company they were at, and you have to be willing to leave to do this negotiation. And B, they thought the job would be harder. And so literally I got a phone call one day and this lady is like screaming. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is something wrong? You need me to call 911? Like, what's going on? She had changed jobs, she was a project manager. Same exact role, different company. Actually easier at the new company because they were allowing her to work from home many of the days. She said at the office she had a treadmill that she could actually walk while she worked at her desk, right? She said doubled her pay and got her first paycheck. And she's like, I can't even believe I'm doing the exact same work and I'm making twice. Like I can't even grasp it mentally. Because she said, we always associate that more money is going to be harder. There's a lady I would love to work with. She's just so close. She's not receiving right now in Burleson, making a low wage, college degreed person, making less than my 23-year-old in his entry-level job, but believes that if she took a different job, it would be harder.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand that if you come up a few levels, you actually have more empowerment and more ability over your schedule, and you're not beholden to someone on an hourly wage, but they just can't make the mental leap.
Yeah. Well, that's because they don't have the mastery of the skill set. I mean, the piano play, life is a lot easier as a master pianist than it is as first lesson. You know?
I get calls from master's degree people that are making $25,000 a year.
So much of it is mindset. I want to finish as we wrap up today because I talk about a friend of mine, and I always have known that you have the same opinion, which is you got to have the guts to leave. Right. And I say it to people around here too. If you're not getting what you need from this place, you got to have the guts to leave, because I am going to give you all that I can give you. right? I will actually give. I mean, this comp thing that this administrative charge that we put in yesterday, I agonized more over the cost of to the employee and how does the employee make up that gap in 2018 than I did what is the impact of profitability to the company.
Right.
Right. So I'm going to give a lot. Now that's not all CEOs, but I believe most of the time they're not trying to keep you down. They want you to be happy.
They want you, yeah. Right.
But my friend Andrea used to come through Dallas. She was in the fashion business, and she would come through for the trunk shows down at the Apparel Mint. And I was just getting the business going. She and I went to college together, and she would take me out for these real nice dinners, with all the hot girls from New York in the fashion business. And I was like, count me in, right? I got no money, and you're going to buy me dinner. I get to hang out with beautiful women. I'm in.
Yeah.
Every 6 months, she'd come in, and she'd be working for a different company. And I'd say, I don't understand. What happened? She's like, I went in for the raise, and they wouldn't give it to me, so I left. The other offer was on the table for more money. They wouldn't match, and I left.
Right.
She probably did that 6, 7, 8 times. Now she has a insanely high-powered, high-paying job in New York City in the fashion industry, and nobody looked down upon her from those moves.
Right. No, and so many people are not willing to do that.
Right.
It's like they're stuck in the mud, and they accept that this is the mud I have to be in.
Why, though? Why don't they have the guts to do the research and analysis, to present properly and professionally, and then have the guts to leave?
There's an assortment of different answers I've heard. Some have said it won't do any good, which it's almost like my college story, right? I didn't know if I was going to get in or not. I didn't. You have to do the work and believe that if you don't get it there, it will pay off somewhere else. Mm-hmm. You can't pre-guess the outcome, or else you're self-selecting failure. So a lot of them are just self-selecting failure. People don't want to do the work. They think they're too busy. Most of those people that think they're too busy are watching 17 hours a week of television, right? I mean, it's completely false.
Yeah. I think one thing I would say as well is people need to understand and be open to the fact that maybe they aren't deserving of the raise.
Right.
And they got to go back.
Out. Yeah.
They got to go back to the drawing board.
That's the most important part of the annual report is you might go through it and realize that you didn't do that much that year. And honestly, then that's just a lesson to you to what do I want to accomplish next year? And if I do this next year, what do I want to be on the report?
That's awesome.
I think the awareness is the best part of that.
Mm-hmm. You have to be open to receive the result of the data.
Right.
I love that.
If you got nothing to put down, then hell no, you're not going to go ask for a raise.
All right, Bethany, that we could go on for hours. But I know you got a little time constraint. We could go on for hours. I want to thank you for being my friend.
Absolutely.
I want to thank you for coming in the studio and doing the podcast. And we only have one thing left to do, and that's sign the booth. So you get to be my guest and sign today's booth, all right?
All right.
Thanks. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
I'll see the rest of you down the road.